we, the chordates, have a subphylum. We're the vertebrates. Okay, now that we have that in mind, and we've gotten up to 580,000 years, all major animal phyla starting at once, so we understand what that means. It's a mystery. Why did all the animal phyla start 580 million years ago, and then there's never another animal phylum that evolves? Next slide. Okay. Can I see the next slide? Because this is the coral reef. And yeah, so we'll go back 1 second to the coral reef. Can you back it up? So the coral reef gives you an example of the very, very high biodiversity that evolved. The coral reef and the rainforest are the ecosystems with the highest biodiversity in the world. There are more species in the rainforest and the coral reef ecosystems than anywhere else in the world. Half of the species are in the rainforest. Okay, now, how is this classified? This shows the next slide. What is what? I told you there are 3 kingdoms of species, or 3 domains. 3 domains that are the biggest groupings of animals and plants. The first domain, you see the root at the bottom where all life came from. This domain is the eukarya. That is us. That's the eukaryotes. The eukaryotes are all animals or plants or other things that have a nucleus setting aside their DNA in a compartment. And they have other organs set aside with membranes. So they have a mitochondria for cellular respiration. They have a chloroplast in the case of plants to carry out photosynthesis. Their DNA is packed within chromosomes in a nucleus. What I want you to realize here is you see that these are all different kingdoms within the eukaryotes, and right here is our one kingdom, the animals. The other kingdoms are slime molds, or plants, or ciliated protozoan like the paramecium, protozoa like the amoeba, the fungi, those kind of things. Next slide.
Mr. Darwin, on the plant branch, you have green algae twice, 2 different branches. Okay,
let me see. Oh yes, okay. That is the green algae. The reason that very good observation, that's just, you can kind of ignore that. That's just 2 different versions of when the green algae branched off. Okay, next. Well, we're getting to bacteria next. So these are all the kingdoms of bacteria. Every one of them is a different kingdom of the bacteria. Bacteria are prokaryotes. They have no compartmentalized, membraned organelles in the cell. So they have no mitochondria, no chloroplast, no nucleus for the DNA. The genetic material is scattered throughout the cell. Fundamentally different, and their DNA is much less complex the way it's run than us, the eukaryotes. Bacteria is one branch of the prokaryotes, one domain. I told you there are 3 domains. The other domain is on the next slide, and it's called the archaea. And they are also, these are all their kingdoms within the domain archaea. They are also prokaryotes, one cell and DNA scattered throughout the cell. Now, here's the point I want you to see. Of all the species, 95+% are archaea and bacteria, are prokaryotes, unicellular simple things. We, in terms of number of species, are really somewhere around 1%. That's conservative to say these are 95%. About 99% of all species. They live deep under the ground, they live up on the surface, they live all over, and they live in us. And we will discuss this a little later. Now, going back 2 slides to our slide, where we have the 1% of the eukarya, we see that only one phylum in the eukarya of that 1% of all species is animals. So within that, a good 90% are one-celled simple things. But if we were to take the animals and break them down, we would find most of them are not in our phylum, they are arthropods, most of them being insects. And if we were to break down the insects, they're mostly beetles. One group of insects, and within that, that's one order of insects, and then within that, one family of the beetles predominates, and that's the weevils. So imagine a real serious biologist would be studying bacteria, a real serious zoologist would be studying insects. Okay, let's advance. Now we have an idea of the diversity that we're trying to explain. This is how we started out 240 million years ago on the Earth. All the continents were together. Next slide. And because the continents drift along, it's called plate tectonics, they move about 160 million years ago. It looked like this. The Earth did. Next one. 90 million years ago, we're starting to get a little closer to today when South America breaks off from Africa. India is over